Right. I see it.
Hey guys, it's Arlyn of Awaken, Spanda, and we are back for the new series, Pass the Mic. This is where we'll be dismantling the illusion that only the experts get to speak. In a culture saturated in academic ideas and belief systems, here we will be engaging with people who align themselves with the sacred, ancestral way, and with consciousness. So the adepts. So here you'll be getting all the stuff you won't be getting in mainstream media or mainstream world, wherever that is. I don't live. But today we have a very special guest. We have Keith with us. And Keith,
Please, no, you can call me K or you don't have to call me Keith. That's for people who pay me, you know what I mean? That's the straw man and all that jazz.
okay. Well, let me give you a quick little rundown on Keith or K. K, like K.
K K O,
Ko.
so people cool. Yeah,
All right. So
K
Ko,
was better.
he's a Charleston native. With the focus on being his truest self. He's a spiritualist, an artist, and an all-around being with a concentration on nose reading and teaching about love bumps on the nose. So, guys, this is
Wow.
something. Yeah, this is something definitely you don't get. You don't just find this. This is part of why.
Yeah.
This is part of why I brought Keith on today. Okay. Anyway, we met. Actually, we met on social media. Actually, I
Hmm.
found drawn to a lot of his posts, and I watched a couple of his lives, and I was like, this brother's got something going on. So I wanted to find
Oh
out.
man, so much accolades.
so so anyway, thanks for joining me today. Thanks for coming on.
No problem. It's been a long day, but we've actually made it through it. So it's good to be here,
Absolutely. All
on
right.
time.
So we're gonna get into talking about the nose readings, but what I first wanted to just kind of start off with is just maybe can you give us a little background on how you got started in the nose readings and like kind of like your journey, like how'd you get where you are with it?
Yeah, no doubt. So at five, growing up from the city, of course, at five, I was a very curious guy, and I, for one, was not just only the creative and the more like five was for one, five was like the biggest year of my life. It was the age that I told my mom that God sent me down here to be special to the world. And I was writing with both hands. In one hand, I could draw, and the other hand, I could, write stories. And it was at that age that I asked my sister what she had on her nose at the time. And at the time, she told me it was heat bumps because, Charleston's hot. So, I figured, okay, that's possibly what it is. But then I thought to myself, like, well, why was it just so specific, like how it looked on her nose? And then, of course, on the rest of the body, it looked different. You had like chill bumps, goose bumps for like when you're afraid. You had heat bumps for like when you're overheating or like, uh, and you had uh, aspect of, oh gosh, even in folklore, which is something that I had to learn later on. In folklore, there's this term called sex bumps, which is stress bumps, in fact. But I ended up growing up with that like inclination that it was not like acne or blackheads, because that is in itself is a usurp. It's a term designed to make people divisive and separate to the idea of what it may be. Now, when you hear the term black and white heads, you're automatically thinking like black and white, split between a bipolarism or a polarization, light and the dark to something. And so the main thing that's taught is not that there's a balance between the yin and yang, but that you should just remove it all. You should get rid of it, extract it, remove, and exfoliate, which it wasn't until later on, this is until like in my later 20s, that this all made more sense to keep. And so it wasn't until I was about 15 or maybe 14 going into 15 where I was talking to somebody. It was a long distance relationship. I never met the person. God bless her soul to this day. But she used to call me love bumps because I was just telling her about it all the time. I was just like so profusely like into it. And to myself at like 15, 14, 13, you're like, man, fuck that. I don't know if you can curse on here, but you're like, forget that. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be weird in any case, but she kept calling it love bumps. And I was like, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. I'm gaining energy to you. I'm gaining attraction to you. Now I'm 15, so I don't know what none of this means. You know, I don't know this is anything spiritual. I'm just thinking this is, you know, you catch feelings and you start growing this pattern. And most females had it. Most males had, most African Americans that I knew, because of course I grew up around black or darker toned people. So obviously I would think that they had it majority rule. And then it wasn't until I started dating someone that was opposite of my skin tone, who actually took it more serious, and also like learned about flaring the nostrils. And at the time, flaring the nostrils was just a habit for me. It was something that, as a crybaby, because I used to cry a lot, that would just happen and would show up as a result of my emotions. And so she picked up on all of this stuff, not so much into detail, but just enough to get in my attention bubble to date me, of course. So, you know, I'm cultivating. After I graduate, she leaves, and I go to college, and I'm like still having this, because I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna grow up out of it. You know, it was a thing, but it's still something prevalent. It's still something that I'm noticing. I'm now seeing it on everybody. You know, black, white, whomever. And I'm still in my mind like, well, this is love bumps because it's not a coined term yet. And, you know, it's just a term, you know, it's just a term that I would use and throw out there so it's easier to process instead of just acne and blackheads and stuff. But yet I would still get the rebuttals of, hey, that's dirt, or that's part, you know, that's particulates, that's acne. It's everything that they say in mainstream. Go ahead.
Were you kind of like doing your own readings or just observing people's noses all
It
the
was just an observance. It was just it was like scientific experiment. And me myself, I'm always into experimenting on myself first and experiencing it before I even tell somebody about something. So from 15 till about now, uh, well, basically from the time I was able to like pay attention to it more, instead of just a childhood thing, until now was all experimental. So every person that I date, I never really even told them. I just would look at the nose and just, okay, well, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, they would, at the time, you know, it wasn't the age of awakening like how we are now, but, you know, people was just like, oh, well, whatever, motherfucker, you know. And so, I mean, it really made me feel uncomforting in the beginning, for sure. I mean, it was not the easiest thing to really bring out to the world. In fact, I didn't bring it out till 27, so you can imagine.
time?
Um,
So, so was it, so tell us about when you started like studying it. When
doing
did
the
you,
official, so basically after college is when I finally took it more serious, and I started saying, okay, well, what is this in correlation of? Why do they call it blackheads? I started doing etymology work. So I mean, and this is of course a part of the whole awakening that I was having at the time. But it was like, why do they call it blackheads? Why do they call it a whole bunch of names? And then I started doing the digging on the terms. Once you learn the words you're using, you know the spells that are being casted on you. And so I started to decipher and decode the fact that, okay, let me type in love bumps and see what it is. If I searched love bumps on the nose, let me search bumps on the nose. Let me search acne. Let me search pimples. Let me search everything that they would describe. And it all looked different aside from a rash or anything of that nature. But the certain things like a sebaceous filament, blackhead, whitehead, comedone, uh, they all look the same and resemble the same thing. And it just had different perspectives from different medical fields, and just a slew of information and misinformation that just made you feel like, okay, well, the pharmaceuticals and the beauty supply companies, because at the time I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, or early 90s, I'm an 89s baby, but Proactive was the shit. You know, Proactive was going heavy.
I use that?
Clearasil, Clean and Clear. You know what I mean? All of these things. Neutrogena. This was OxyClean. I mean, not OxyClean. Oxy. It was like an Oxy one. Uh, Clearex. All of these things was like bombarding you when when our pheromones were so high. And this was at the time I didn't even know, but I was already I was decoding it. Then I typed in love bumps. I was like, okay, let me see what this says. To know that when you type in love bumps on Google, the first thing that they did is take you to a venereal disease or an STD. So here I go now, like, why would you disprove something that's not even a real term unless it's a term prior to you discovering it? So it had to either be like, it's like discovering water for the first time. And you're like, oh, that's water. And someone's like, oh, how'd you know that was water? No, you're supposed to know that. So they usurped it for you and turned it into something else. So it was like, okay, this is so whenever somebody would tell somebody to look it up, they'll say, oh, you talking about herpes? You're talking about this? You're talking about that? Hell no, what the fuck? So you're already being discredited based on just searching. So then I had to decode. I had to now use my intuition, my critical thinking skills, my attention to detail, and like say, okay, well, if this is related to this, if sebaceous glands and sebaceous filaments are something that's said to not be touched, which in some cases actually called whiteheads, but you don't hear about whiteheads that much these days, because whiteheads is like white people, the quote unquote quiet is kept secret, but or the quote unquote can't be touched or privileged. But when you see these things, sebaceous filaments, whiteheads, you're talking about the lighter pattern. You're talking about the more sensitive sides of you. You're talking about the more nurturing and fulfilling sides of your essence coming to the forefront. But no, they don't tell you that. They only show you comedones, which is an anagram for cone dome, which is basically the shape of your cosmos. You see what I'm saying? So I can show you, for example, right now. I wish I could flip this camera. Oh, I can. So for example, you see how there's a hill, kind of, sort of, coming up on the ground, going down? This is the face of the earth. It does this all around you. Your skin does the same exact thing. And so I started to look at the cosmology of life, the trees and how trees were antenna. Then you started looking, I learned about how hair was, oh, my apologies, I need to face the light. I learned about how hair is antenna. I learned about how if trees and hair are antenna, and if they're sticking out of the pores of your skin, then obviously when they go back in, that means that they already have received what they need to grow the new fruit. So now I've started, this is all cultivating energy, information. I'm studying from other people abroad, like Bro Sanchez and Seven Balmer. And these people are tying in the cosmologies.
Just Seven. You follow Seven?
Oh, you know about Seven? Yes, I love Seven.
Ah, yeah, that's my brother.
Yes,
Yeah.
Seven is the guy. Seven is one of the people who helped me realize that I knew what the fuck I was talking about. For example, they told you and they showed us and they taught us that the pores lock in dirt, and then they go into you've seen the previews, the CGI graphics, same as what they do with the flat Earth and the cosmos. They show you a globe, but anyways, they show you the graphics and they show you things going into the dirt, going into the hole, right? And then it folds up and it mounds, and then and it's like, oh, so you're talking about like planting a seed. You're talking about what the glands are doing. And since we're talking about the glands, which is the endocrine system, which is not much talked about, then we're talking about all of the chakra systems, because your glands are your chakras. Your third eye, which is your pineal, pituitary, uh, lymph nodes, thyroid, which activates the rest of the glands, the adrenal. And so now I'm thinking to myself, huh, all of your glands secrete the oils that you secrete out your face, the sebaceous oils that are designed to lock in every pheromone that you interact with in the actual atmosphere. Therefore, those particles, which they call particulates, lock in to those domes, into those pores, and create a dome, which is once again that comedone or a cone dome, an anagram. Once again, flip the word. Flip one letter and that's all you got. Flip two letters and you got two separate words that you already know. But comedone, and now you have rising pores. And since the nose is so important, people would say, oh, it's just an expenditure, blah, 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 blah. Well, there's a lot. I don't want to get too graphic, but I'll say a part of it is the fact that your nose locks on the pheromones. It's the only area of your body, aside from the parts that secrete the pheromones, which is like your underarm, your vaginal, or your genitalia, or your genitals, your underarms, you know, your hair, sweat glands. These are the only things that secrete the pheromones that your nose locks in. From there, it seeps it in the bank, which is your memory bank. You know how many places you heard the word bank at. The Bank of America, the bank of a river, the bank of your, you know what I mean? So we're talking about canals. We're talking about the depths of things. We're talking about the deeper stages. And it wasn't until these are brain blasts upon brain blasts that I had to have just off of typing in love bumps on the fucking Google. You know what I mean? And having to not assimilate to what's just taught, to the point where if you type in things like blackhead, or you know, blackheads or whatever on Google or YouTube, they'll make sure to explain away how this isn't good for you, even though it's all false similes. It's not real based evidence. It's just false similes. It's just given to you because we've done the studies and this, we think that that's what it is.
It's like
So my apologies. My apologies. I missing done something. I swiped too far. My bad. I thought I had to move something. But yeah, all of these fallacies to give you grandeur, just so you can buy into products, just so you can cover it up and mask yourself, not realizing that when you put on deodorizer, you're covering up the pheromones, not mentioning when you mask your face, you're clogging the pores for real, which when you have to always constantly remove the oils that naturally stay there, then you're going to start gaining craters and have to, which make inertly forces you to deal with yourself. So I started at 27 correlating the color spectrums, the different colors of bumps that show up on the nose to certain emotions, to certain feelings. After I started realizing that the nose, the heart, the the nose, the heart, the gut, the third eye, the genitals and genitalia were all connected. After I discovered that, then I started correlating what colors and what went with where. So if you had, oh gosh, give me a second, I'm getting warm. But if you had uh, darker bumps, which some people call blackheads, that just indicates that you're much more dominant, more assertive, more profound, more focused, more cunning, more uh, possessive, protective type of being. A lot of these people have a lot of these people in their life. I mean, damn near most of the 85% of them, of people on this planet have that energy inertly in them. And that's why they label them as blackheads. It's like, oh, I just need to get rid of these blackheads. So romantic in your mind state before you even discover what it is. You already have a force, a forcefulness to it. You already have a reason to be strict about something. You already have a reason to remove it, you know, but that's good. Most of those type of people would be great managers. Most of these type of people were great leaders, be great speakers, be forward thinkers, but will also over dominate a situation. They'll be over talkative. They'll be loud mouths. They'll be extringent on certain things. And you see these things play out every day. You know what I mean? You can see it face value. You know what I mean? It'll start right on your nose, so much so that these sayings like it's on the nose and follow the nose and right under your nose and spot on the nose. I mean, it tells you right there. Even the word no, nose is the word. Go ahead.
You mentioned me before how the nose correlates to the natal as well. We talked about that.
Right. That's why I was. So yes, that's why I was going to break down. I was going to, because I speak in spirals. One thing about me, if you're learning from me, is that I speak in spiralic or centrifugal like form. So that way, if I miss something now, you'll catch it by way of yourself, or I'll remind myself as I explain. But you get to the word nose. The word nose is Nose, but it's also spelled Knows. Now, let's know that K is usually silent, but K also represents the crown. K is also representative of C, which is a water wave, and we'll get to that soon. But let's take the K off, and let's focus on the Nose or the Nows. That's the nows. That's the no, or the now, person, place, or thing. The noun, which is current, and we'll get back to that word current. But you got the word NOW, which is inadvertently, you add an N behind it and it's NOWN, which is noun. But W is just two U's or two V's. You see what I'm saying? So U is feminine, V is masculine, and it can always be reversed, you know. So that's why they pair together, UV, which would give you W. And in that essence, when you add a U into it, NOUN, now you have the noun, person, place, or thing that you correlate in the now, which is the current, which is the wave. You know what I mean? Whenever you see currency or current, you're thinking of a riverway, you're thinking of waterways, you're thinking of energy waves, you're thinking of sound waves, you're thinking of waves, current, which once again is a bank. You know what I mean? You get currency like money, you get cents, then you get dollars. But cents is always common, anywhere, common sense. So sense is also past tense, which is no longer current, which is no longer in the now, which is something that you known. Once again, NOWN, but you add the K back in front of it. Now you got the word known. You know what I mean? And in that case, when you've known something, if someone had to remind you, then you knew about it, which is always something new. Because once again, you just take the K off. You know, you add the S, you got the news. And then from there, you also talk about the aspect, we get back to the sense, the CENTS, which is once again an anagram. You move the S to the front, you got sent. You know what I mean? Which you take the C out, you got sent, which is a message. You know what I mean? Which you add take the T out, add as NCE, and you got sense, which is NSE, which is sense, something to think on. But then you add the sensor, you add the NCE, then you got sense, like sensories, your senses. So here we are now talking about the same aspect of the same thing, so much so that when we get to the nasal, when you're talking about the nasal, you're talking about the navel, because the nasal and the navel are connected. Your first breath was through your navel, you know what I mean? But your navel has a canal. It has a way for you to get fed, you know what I mean? Which is a bank, and you're in the waters, which is the depths of the water that you're in. Now, when you hear the word naval, you think of course, your belly button, but you also think of military, which is also the Navy. You know, of course, inadvertently that would be the Navy, but NAVY is no different than NAVI, which is the Navi or the Navy. Or when you think of the Navy and military, you think of underwater submersion and going depths in the deeps of the ocean. Same difference when you think of the nasal and the navel and the natal, you're going in the depths in the subconscious of your mind, the depths in your soul, the depths of your heart, the depths of your carnal desires, your depths of your highest desires, and you're bringing them into one, and you're creating that current for it. But the navel, the NAVI is also in regards to the Navi, and is an aspect to navigating, you know, navigational aspect. When you see the word navigate, you see NAVIGATE. Navi, which is the direction, and gate, which is the opening. You see what I'm saying? So you have a navigational compass. This is your compass, facing straight ahead of you, not looking down, but looking at your nose. This is the only thing you see. So this is your only guiding compass, going any direction, anywhere, all the time. You know what I mean? And when you trust it, when you follow it, you know where you're going all the time. If you're following yourself into a place where you don't know where you're going, you will end up getting your whole essence taken. And for some people, you may not even see bumps on their nose. That for some people is them losing themselves, losing their heart, losing their drive, losing their soul. You know, your soul has a beat, a rhythm. Go ahead.
So, like, what you know how people, obviously in 3D in the Matrix life, everybody's always striving to get rid of all their oil, all the blackheads or whatever.
Right, right.
So you're saying you strip it, you're stripping off sensories, like is that kind of
You're stripping everything you knew, which is once again everything that is to be new or everything that was current in the past. So think about all of the, say we went out today, right? Today was a little frantic. And if you didn't want today's energy, you could wash your nose. You know what I mean? And that would remove today's person's place thing, the noun, in the now that you've attached to in this ecosystem, in this sphere. When you think of the word sphere, you think of fair. When you think of fair, you think of pheromones, fair tactics, fair uh, Fahrenheit. You're talking about the pH, which is the balance. You know what I mean? So when you're adding the pH to something, like when we're in this troposphere or this atmospheric energy, we're taking in everything that's about it, which is the spirit. Because when you're talking about sphere, you're also talking about sphere or the spear. You know what I mean? Your nose looks like a spear, looks like an arrow pointing in the right direction, pointing you in your direction, whatever direction that is for you. You know what I mean? And it lets you know. Some people go up, some people down, some people crooked, some people, and these are all symbols. These are all symbology, not just to the aspect of looking at the shape of the nose, but the micro tiny parts of it, the littlest bumps, the larger one that shows up like a mole or a wart that's like a mountain or a hill. When you think of moles, you think of mounds. I just been walking about a bunch of ant piles just now. You know, they're mounding. An ant pile looks like a giant bump. This is all your cosmology. So much so that perpendicular is the bump of life. Everything makes the shape. Let me show you. Let me just show you how up and down it goes. Do 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 do. Boop, boop. Well, and what does that look like? Also, it looks like a heart monitor, which goes beep beep. So whenever you don't see, go ahead.
No, I feel you. I'm seeing it. I'm feeling it.
It's processing, right? It's starting to make a lot of sense.
It's like the layers of life, really.
Yes, exactly. Which is the layers of your skin, which is the layers of oil that you secrete. You mentioned you asked, what about people who take away the oils from their skin? Well, your body's naturally going to produce oil. Some people produce over abundant amounts. Some people produce less based on their genetics and how their family's genetics have been reputable with their own self. But what happens is people tend to go ahead. Oh, what I was going to say, people get taught to remove the oils, get rid of the oils because it makes you look greasy and all of these different things. When in fact, we're talking about separate oils. We're talking about oils that come from saturated fat versus oils that come from the sebaceous glands. When you're eating greasy, horrible foods, trash, you're going to ooze that everywhere out the body. It's even going to come out your shit. But when you're talking about your natural glow, like how I can't stop sweating, but if I was to wipe this, it'll still be a glow. That's my natural oil, and it's designed to stay there to not only protect you, but to attract everything and repel everything you need in your life. You know what I mean? Because pheromones work as like harmonics, hormones and harmonics is the same, or harmony is the same word. Y and E are synonymous with each other. So when you're in A and O is the same, all vowels is the same tone. So when you're talking about harmonics and hormonics and pheromones is just a group of hormones. Pheromones can travel through the bone, PHONE, pH. I can't spell pheromone right now, but you know what I'm saying, pheromones. So the pH always brings the balance, and it's always traveling, it's always flowing. pH. So when you're not allowing your pH to really balance and the oil's not coming out naturally and you're always removing them or putting makeup on or doing this and doing that, the chances of you actually connecting with the person you're supposed to be with, the job you're supposed to be at, the place you're supposed to go to, the fucking scenario you're supposed to be into right now, the car that may avoid you from hitting you. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because it's frequency, it's the aura. Your aura is your aroma. Whenever you see an aroma, you see it look like an aura wave, which is a wave, once again, that you can't escape it. So here we are now talking about the fact that people may overproduce oils because every time you remove your oils, your body's trying to overproduce it to keep up with the oils that it missed from the last fucking. Let me stop. I don't want to get too vile with my words, but it'll it'll try to catch up. It'll try to play the catch up game the whole time while you're constantly overproducing oils. One thing that happens is that if you're overproducing sebaceous oils on the face, then that means the rest of the body's glands that's supposed to get oils, like the adrenal glands, for some people who have problems with their adrenal glands and their lower areas, like their sextile areas, all of the areas in which they have trouble with their prostates and their liver and all of these different things because of fear and all of these, having trouble with your fears, having trouble with your dreams, and your adrenal glands is operating at high efficiency and you trying to survive and you thinking about your day-to-day activities and how you gonna make it. Your hormones are off, and doctors tell especially females this all the time, which is a prevalent reason why they don't have children. And the nose is the most affected when having children because that's the first thing that's affected when you're having a child. Your sense of smell change and the shape of your nose change, then the shape of your hips and feet, because
Interesting.
you're now
So,
taking in a new breath. You're bringing in new life. So when you're breathing, once again, spirit, you know what I mean? A new being to take a body shape. And it's going to be developing your patterns. It's going to be developing all of your traits, so that's what's going to be affected first. It has to have a breathing apparatus to get here in the first fucking place. So in order for that to happen, we need to snatch what you have. If you're a person who's malnourished, if you're a person who's malsensical, if you're a person who doesn't know the realm you live in, then you're always going to be producing family curses because those patterns are going to trickle down onto the children into the form of what they call malia or malia, Malia. I can't remember how you pronounce it, but the little white bumps that they say that children grow in their nose based off breast milk, right? Well, they automatically were going to grow that because that's their pattern. It's whatever patterns that they were going to assign themselves in the first place, whether it was from mother, father, or whether they just came down there from the abundant realm and just was like, all right, this is what I want to deal with. And so we have such a clusterfuck of what we think our nose is about. And that's the point. So much so that that's why they knocked them off the statues of every statue of primitive culture. You know what I mean? Of most statues of primitive culture, that the ones that they don't teach you about is the ones that they knock the statues off. You know what I mean? I mean, to knock the noses off because you don't want to relate back to your history. You don't want to know. You don't want to. Got your ass. My bad. Mosquitoes. You don't want to figure out that you were something of importance. That your pattern was on the nose of, you know, King Leopold or some shit like that, or the Sphinx. Y'all had the same similar structure, and then when you look at certain things and you can see it, then you know where your powers come from. You know what I mean? And so it's a slew of things that I started learning after I started discovering this stuff and how powerful it is, how much it had to do with your sex drive, how much it had to do with your gut instincts, how much it had to do with your ego, how much it had to do with uh, uh, Karma Sutra, how much it had to do with magic rituals in general, how much it had to do with subconscious programming, and how you can manipulate people, um, so much so that flaring, nostril flaring, is such a powerful, untold truth or untold practice that if you really knew about it, you would know that it would be chaotic to the world. And it sounds stupid. It sounds like, what the hell are you talking about nostril flaring? But notice your big, huh?
with that,
What were you gonna say?
well, what I was gonna say about would you say like you could kind of like detect almost from a nose like where you maybe like need to like work on
Oh,
firmer?
yes, for sure. Everything about most people you can tell from their nose because their nose holds the knowing. the nose has a ledge. That's where you get your knowledge from. You know, the
Right.
term knowledge comes from nose ledge. So when you're when you know it, then you know you can see where everything is at. You can see the flaws, you can see the gifts, the better makings of a person. You can see, you know what I mean, and you can see the alternatives of a person depending on what direction they go. You can see the values of a person. You can see a lot. You can see.
You're frozen right now? There you are. Okay, you're back. You're back. You were frozen. Oh,
Okay,
no.
give me a second. How about now? Give me
You're
1
good.
second. How about now?
You're good. You.
Okay.
Detecting the hormones. Also, like this kind of goes into like energetics. You know, I guess you're just hitting on things I never even really thought about when it comes to the nose. You know, can you hear me?
It's a little. You're starting to break up just a little towards the end.
Okay, I was just talking about how it goes into like the energetic signature of like if each of us, like how all the senses.
Right.
It's just interesting to me because the nose is the one thing I didn't know all those details that you're explaining.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. You don't. It's on purpose. It's on purpose. It's one of the things that you don't know, because if you don't know, then you don't knows. There is no
I see what you're saying.
equivalence to it. Now think about this. I'm just looking at a good thing. I got this toy in front of me. What's one of the most impactful and largest animals that we love to this day on the planet?
What's that? Say it again. I'm sorry.
What's one of the largest, most beloved land animals that we know and love to this day?
Dog?
No,
Dog?
largest. One of the largest.
Oh.
Or even dogs. We'll talk about dogs too, but go ahead.
I don't know, like an elephant?
Yes. An elephant.
Elephants are my favorite. My favorite.
Right, but what? And what's so significant about
Nose.
I had to drop it real quick just to let you know. But what also is important about the elephant, that people always have a loving to, besides the tusk and all of the other stuff.
Well, they're compassionate, right? They're smart.
Right. Continue. You on the right track.
Family oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I said memory.
Yo. Yeah. Okay. You see how quick you had to lock into certain synapses in your brain to connect that, right? But that's what I was getting at. That's what I wanted you to pick up on. The memory. Once again, the nose in the memory bank. The bank. Their bank. Their nose. They even sip water through the bank to get. So I'm saying, so these connotations are not something to take lightly, because it's playing out right in front of you. Even with dogs, the reasons why people love dogs so much, aside from the fact that they also have gritted noses, bumps on their nose that you don't pay attention to enough, but they flare all the time.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, all animals, most animals. So see how we're so disconnected? Oh no.
I lost you. There you go. You're back. You're back. You're good.
But yeah, you see how quickly we got disconnected. Not just, I'm talking about not the live, but how quickly we got disconnected from reality, just based on simple shit, just the smallest details and shit that people don't pay attention to. But what I was going to get at about flaring was the fact that most actors, your most prevalent actors, any top name that you can think of, that's how most times they win you over in the acting. You don't even pay attention to it. Shit, they may not even pay attention to it. But because of the timing and the seriousness of it, or the execution of it. See, to the aligned spirit, everything would be like a flow. It'll be so on cue that you wouldn't even pay attention to it, because it'll be like, oh, well, I'm flaring as I'm talking, and I'm in this mode, and I have these emotions, and I'm emoting it, and I'm in the emotions, but you don't even realize that you're channeling right now. You don't even realize that as you're flaring, you're activating the brain because it's going directly to the third eye. So it's allowing the imagination to run however function it wants to run, how big your imagination is, and how much flare. Because when you think of the word flare, you think of the word pop, you think of the word grandeur, you think of the word you know, greater than normal. You know what I mean? Exasperated, extra. You know what I mean? When you think of flare, you think of extra. So when you're go
My
ahead.
mom told me when I was little, I used to flare mine out. She always used to say I'd be an actress when I got older.
You see what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now you're
I did,
talking about,
he did
because
that.
she what?
He used to do that too. I probably got it from
All
him.
right. But the thing about it is you have to know how to do that. You can't just, you have to know. It's a knowing. You see what I'm saying? You can practice, you can learn, but if you knew how to do it, it's not something that you have to be taught to do. You just know it, which means you've always acted a certain role out in life. You've always acted a certain way in life. It became your character, it became your patterns, it became a role for you to play every time you came back here because you're in the real world. You see what I'm saying? The real is film. I was talking about that on my live the other day. So the real world, where you come here as a character to act out your role. Some people don't act their purpose out. Some people are great at acting so much they become actors in the acting. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Which is your everyday actors that we talking about right now. So they get so lost in their power of being able to connect with that energy that they don't even realize that when the flaring is happening, the once again the main vortex is the nose, the third eye, the heart. All of these parts are open. They're now orifices that are open now, and since they're not like inner holes, they're like vortexes that you take energy into. You know what I mean? Then the person who's watching, whatever flare pattern, whatever flare sequence that they're doing is like Morse code. It's like beep 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 beep, and you like, and since your subconscious is the one that's reading it, you may not, just because your eyes seeing it, you just think, oh well, they just in the mood, they're in the moment. But by the end of the movie, such a great actor. You
Yeah,
know what I
you
mean?
all that with your
You've
subconscious.
already bought your attentions exactly.
That makes so much
So
sense.
so now here comes uh I had so much I wanted to get on just now, but I'll go straight. Oh, when I said Morse code, if flaring is Morse code, then if flaring is to Morse code, then love bumps is to Braille.
Braille?
Yes. Now, when you read Braille, you use your fingers. Your eyes are closed, so you can't see, but your subconscious is programming what's happening. And what is it reading? Bumps.
Right. Yeah.
So how are we escaping this cosmology? You know what I mean? It's right. You know what I mean?
You just
You can't.
nailed it. You nailed it.
You see what I'm
Very clear.
saying? So I mean, it's a poetic move to it. You know, it's so many points where I'd be driving home for certain people. It's just like talking.
I love it. And I'm so glad that I had you come on and share this actually. And you know Seven Bomar, and that's like if you can understand Seven Bomar, that that same like,
Yeah, I know about Seven, man. I was just listening to him today, and
yeah,
he was talking about Mount Meru and different things. So in the Divine Goddess, and that's all these things are important because even knowing the sex, if you knowing about if you know about love bumps then takes the next step to different types of bumps, which occur in the same region and also can become face value, which now leads into terms like acne, rash, breakouts, uh, terms like identifiable ingrown hairs, things like that. So acne, when you look at the prefix AC, comes from I think the ontology or the etymology of the word meaning to come towards or come to, and ne meaning together. So acne as a coming together, regardless of what it is. It could be activism, which is what you're seeing now. Even to the point where I posted up something today, so in correlation, because I was going to get on this, that people are getting maskne. What the fuck is maskne? Maskne is when you're wearing the face mask so much that you break out, because you see what I'm saying? Because your oils are now trapped.
And I've been here, and I have a lot of people that have been telling me that recently, that they've been getting breakouts like all around.
You get breakouts because the oils is trapped. Your pheromones are stuck, and if it's stuck on the nose, then it's not.
I mean, don't even get me started on the mask right now, because that's.
Oh yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. It gets, because now we're talking about in 2020, which was the pheromonic year to make a grand change, being covered so that you don't pick up on it, so that you don't breathe in the new pheromones, that you don't breathe in. In fact, they make you afraid of the air.
Yeah, I can't do it. It's just it's not for us, is it?
You see what I'm saying? They make you afraid of the air. Go ahead.
We kind of covered all that, but I kind of wanted to go back to something you had said, because it's something that it came to my mind lately. But you had gone into the black and white, and like
right,
the etymology,
the polarities of it. Right.
Yeah, like, can you just kind of touch on that a little bit? Like, because we see it, for me, this is what I notice a lot of, and recently, obviously, with the pouring in of like the feeds, like everything's like black people, white, black, white, right? Is it? I mean, it's like giving
me
that's
realism, for like, one. Well, definitely, I'll start with saying that I'm not a black man. You know what I mean? You're not a white woman. You know what I mean? We're not crayons. You know what I mean? We're people, and that is identity politics. You know what I mean? But that started since Masonic orders. You know what I mean? And black and white checkers. You know what I mean? And all of these different things. You know what I mean? It started from having a divisiveness to say you're one thing, accept that, and then the other side automatically hates you, when it's so far from the truth. I used to have a disposition at some points in my life, because I was taught. Now, mind you, now I had to implement this in my life. I wasn't taught this. My whole life I was a free being. I always loved people. Everybody used to love me. When I go to places, shit, I had one of my first main girlfriends was a white girl. So, as I spoke on in the beginning, so I never really had a problem. It wasn't until the propaganda of whatever news site that I was growing up under, because my parents is based on democratic policies, and so they felt that whatever was going on was correct. And people only about Project Mockingbird right now, so they only on repeating whatever the fuck somebody else say. And so they never really took time to divest in what really mattered, because it was already playing out before this even played out. And since people got so caught up into the identity of it all, they started losing themselves into a color, when you didn't realize that those colors was, in ancient times, the two colors of the duat, or yin and yang, or basically the split between worlds, which is the conscious realm and the unconscious realm, or the subconscious realm, which is how they program you, through the conscious realm and the subconscious. That's why they use black and white for hypnosis.
Right.
So you're in your own spell, because you're attaching to the spell terms. Black being lack. You know what I mean? So right now, it's a continuous circle jerk of every 20 years to 100 years to 1,000 years, or the same circle jerk for the past 6,000 years. And right now we're in a great window. Notice how Bill Gates is the person who's operating the windows of reality right now, that we think, as far as in the matrix, because he runs Windows. So he has to have the 2020, which is 4, which is a window. He has to have that window of opportunity to get people to buy into the ritual, black or white. In most cases, people who consider themselves black automatically put themselves in the feeling realm, right? So you absorb. When you're absorbing, you're taking in. Most cases you're taking in feelings because that's what feelings do. It's absorbing. It's a water energy, so it's taking it in. But when it's conscious, it's light. It's in thought, in action, in doing. So now we're just talking about two of these. We're talking about some mysticism that we are looking at as civil rights. People don't even realize that civilization is the damnation. Like when you became a civilized being, you stripped yourself of your sovereignty and started putting yourself in classism, in Marxism, in different isms. You know what I mean? You became a black person. And to them, by a code of color, black means 3/5 still of a person. You're not real people. You're a commodity. You know, we can sell you, buy you, trade you at any given value because that's what black is. When you go into black in business, that's what it means. So it's no different, but people don't want to take themselves out of the identity because they've been, who wants to be wrong, right? Who wants to feel like, oh, I couldn't be that. I gotta be a black person. You know, I don't look like this damn hanger in front of me, but damn right, you know, I'm a black person. I don't look like this phone screen, but hey, you know what I mean? I got to be, you know what I mean, what they say it is. And if not, then I've been living a lie my whole life. But that's the same thing you've been learning about your nose. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's what I struggle with it myself. It's like it's just it's become, and I see that as a split right now too. Is like, you know, we have people like ourselves who are moving towards the sovereignty, and we're just, you know, we're not. I'm not operate on that level. Like I never was, but now it's just like so clear, and I'm not gonna be accepting that anytime soon. So,
Right. And
it's
in which
hard.
case,
You know,
go
it
ahead.
is, and people like almost feel like you're taking like, or either they think I'm crazy when I'm talking about it, or they're like, you know, it's like I'm taking something from them if I say, but you're not. It's not even a logical statement, right? It's not even a logical
Right.
statement. Right? It's like not even like it's not true. It's not in the true frequency. It doesn't even like it doesn't reside there. So that would be number one. But
And
it's a brainwash. It's a brainwashing.
well, it's more like it's more like a brain, it's more like a brain mudding. You know what I mean? Because I think even with the terms we use, it's so backwards. Notice I don't call them blackheads. I call them love bumps. I don't call them comedones. I call them love. I give it a definitive term. That way, if I'm going further into it, then I'll give you a new term that adds on to that term. But I'm breaking the paradigm of like, oh well, it's brainwashing, because brainwashing means you constantly in the process of in the process. You know, when you put your clothes in the spin in the processing part is the cycle. You see what I'm saying? So you go through the spin cycle, the rinse, you go through it all. But when you're getting brain mudded, you're getting brain fucked, you're getting brain aneurysms. You know what I mean? It's different, you know, because they throwing trash in it. You know, they're just trashing you. And this is how you break the spell so much. You break it based on your own practice in the process. And one thing I do is call people gods, goddesses. I don't take time to say, oh, what's up, man? You know, this or that. You know, it's just like, no. What's up, young goddess? What's up, God? You know, I mean, we here in the same essence. You know, what's up, young? You know, and if you're in a certain energy, I'll call you as I see it versus calling you a social term, something sociable, because that's the problem right now. We're too socialistic. We're socialites. You know what I mean? And we don't even realize it. Things are backwards and flipped, and we don't even realize it.
They're inverted, 100%.
You know what I mean? If I was gonna say earlier, if you typed in love bump on Google without the S, you'll get a pregnant woman. You see what I'm saying? Once again, and we talked about pregnant women in the nose changing earlier. So these are all things that are topsy-turvy, flipped, misinformed, disinformed, and then flat out lied. You know what I mean? So
I know.
I'm just one of those people who don't live in that. You know what I mean? And I always was that person. So here I am with this knowledge that I have and wisdom to apply it so that way I can continue my life forward.
Yeah, And the beauty is you're bringing in, like, this is what we talked about in the beginning. This is why I have you here, is to bring in that the sacred. You're connecting with the sacredness, your energy, right? Your consciousness as a whole. So that's the whole reason we're here. You know, is to
Right, indeed.
bring in this
Because that individualism, I
right.
feel like where everybody's going to be forced into either that or like perish. It's a sad thing to say, but it is the real reality. You don't see a lot of ungrowing trees or dying trees still fighting to live and keep their branches. They'll chop them shit off. So it's no different with us at the cosmos, the cosmic mother, which is this planet. Is like, look, I gave y'all plenty of times. I gave y'all JFK. I'm giving you shit. I'm giving you Trump right now just to rally things up real quick. You know what I mean? You don't even gotta like the person. I'm just spicing it up for you. I'm giving you Kanye. You know, that's like cayenne pepper. You know, I'm giving you cayenne. You know what I mean? And still, goddamn, you know what? I'm gonna just have to probably start this shit again, like, and keep the people who get it, because I can't take it no more. It's just like you can't take a bad relationship. You can't take that no more. A person who's beating on you, you can't take that unless you just want to end it like that. You know what I mean? If you want to end it the way it is. And right now, I'll tell you this: what I'm picking up on for my own self, moving forward, from this window, from mid-July, after 4th of July and July 7th was a big energy flux. So after this window, maybe you might get a little few things, but isn't by now until next year, this time is a great window for everybody to become something like the world has never seen, because it will accept that as the new cue card for the next era. You know what I mean? And so I want people to take heed in the words of saying, like, figure yourself out, what you really want to get out of life aside from working with a job and doing 9 to 5 shit, and tap into what it is you need to know, not only about the body that will break the paradigm that we live in about the body, but access the full-on body in the soul, in the consciousness of it, in the subconscious of it all, unconscious of it all, the Lucifers and the light bodies and the angels and the demon, all of it in you. Activate that. That way you can excel past this realm. You can excel past the BS that is everyday problems that people dealing with. You can get past 5G towers and fucking surveillance cameras. You know what I mean? You can become a shapeshifter. Go ahead.
Towers, that's another thing. I know if you've read much, but
I know. I'm studied.
My sense is lately on those 5G tower. I mean, I think a lot of the COVID right now, actually, like the really bad cases, I'm kind of wondering
coming from the tower.
Right. I wonder if they're like how far these people are actually like in regards to a tower being near them. If there's like, for the worst
right
case.
And that's something and you see how quick you alarmed yourself with that. I bet you did that the first time they even hit before the waves even hit, like in March. I bet you was on it back in March when you was like, these towers, what about all these towers? Maybe these towers are causing these problems. But people's no, it's not towers, it's respiratory problems, but they got this. No, the towers cause issues. They always have since the Cold War, since the time of since the introduction of AM FM radio was killing motherfuckers. Radioactive radio waves have been killing people for eons, and they'll name it some other shit. You know what I mean? So
my thoughts on that too are like, as far as like when I talk about like raising your frequency, raising your vibration, like getting in tune, eating those high frequency foods, and doing sound work and whatnot. Like as our light bodies like upgrade and we gain those DNA strands, and I think that we're better able to deal with those 5G.
Right. I mean, shit. Hell, if you're already on it, you're dealing with it better than most people now. You've already you've done just enough before, because they can't just turn the towers on everybody and everybody will be a dead person. You know what I mean? So it's more like pulses. You know what I mean? Everything has a especially when it comes to fiber optics and things like radio waves and pulse waves. Once again, Morse code, it pulsates, beep, beep, beep. And as it's pulsating, depending on the amount of emitted radiation going from one to the next to the phone is what's going, and you covering your fucking face
And
is going.
You've heard that recently, like a lot of the people going in are losing like their smell and their taste. That's
Right.
what
So
that goes into what you were talking
I've been the Rockefeller University and Yale University, I believe, back in the 1970s, I want to say, was doing studies on hormones and pheromone development in people and how certain smells cause certain things to happen. You know what I mean? So this is how they discovered certain things, to certain secretions to put inside. And sorry if you didn't know, for some people, they do secrete inside your high-end perfume and cologne bottles. They put all of that in there. A group of people probably sit down in a circle and get it off and put that into the chemicals. I'm dead ass.
about.
You know what I mean? They do fish, just like they put fish oil inside certain things that you don't know. You know what I mean? And lipstick and stuff like that. Fish scales and stuff like that and lipstick you didn't know about. That's what they do. You know, it's a study. I mean, I'm not gonna say that's the occult part of it when they start doing that. But the science, they do have the studies out there. I have an article on my page, on my Love Bumps page, that has it like pointed out that, hey, we've been doing this for X amount of time. The goal is to find and properly put the right people together. So they've been pheromonically matching you with motherfuckers before you even realized you was going to connect to them in the first place, based on certain things you put on your body, based on certain colognes that you use, certain Old Spice, Brute, fucking Cool Waters. You know what I mean? It don't matter. You know what I mean? It could be the same grandma perfume. You know what I mean? They keep that and they give it to certain people. Those certain people are connected to the people who wear this and that and this. So you've been psyoped the minute you've been the minute you damn near put on baby oil.
Yeah, so basically stay away from all that unnatural shit.
Yeah, and even to the fact that nowadays it's just all of that accumulated can kill you. Because as soon as a radio wave hits you, oh God, I'm not me, dead. So my bad. That's not funny, but
damn. I get it. All right, well, this has been awesome. This has been a really great conversation.
Yeah.
So what
definitely.
It's amazing. So do you you have like, how can people get in touch with you? Like your Facebook?
So I have a Love Bumps page. You can find that on Facebook, Instagram. Just type in on Instagram, Love Bumps on Nose. It's all one word, Love Bumps on Nose. And it's not fully up and functional yet, but you can follow that. And I mean, it's functional, but it's not like how I want it. And you can follow my Love Bumps page on Facebook. That's loving.nose.bumps. Or just type it in, it should pop up. And yeah, I mean, or you can hit me up directly on my page and we can definitely get it from there.
I'm gonna put your name, so for everybody out there, I'm gonna put your name in the box below and all your information. Any way they can stay in touch with you. Yeah, so okay, so final words. Is there just, if there's one thing you could tell the audience right now or tell anybody watching, like you could say one thing, just for today, what would it be?
I would say pay attention to the patterns. And that can mean it in any spectrum. For now, I'm speaking on the nose. Pay attention to the patterns on the nose and just pay attention to everyone else's pattern. That may make you look a little crazy for right now, but it'll give you some keynotes on who you're dealing with. The lighter pattern, you're more dealing with more submissive people. The darker pattern, more dominant people. The neutral pattern, or the flesh tone, even tempered. The red, warning. You see what I'm saying? And you'll know how to navigate a little, just a smidgen. And from there, I think the journey continues.
Just pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
All right. KO. Should I call you KO? Is that where am I
Yeah,
going?
yeah. KO's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with me.
No problem. No problem.
And maybe we will have soon. There's all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
We could go into who knows.
Yeah, yeah. I have a wide array of
Yeah.
viewpoints.
I'd like to talk a little bit about, Masons, Illuminati, that kind of. I'd like to get into some of that stuff. Cool.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay, yeah. All of that. All of it. You know what I mean? Like I said, I dive pretty deep.
yeah, we can do it. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll be in touch.
Yes, yes. Give it a round of applause. Cue the claps. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And I look forward to talking to you again next time. And everyone else too.
Right. All right. Wholeness.
Wholeness. Peace.